Okay, today we are going to create a staggered mask animation with text. Okay, staggered just means that things are going to appear on the timeline at different intervals, at different times on the timeline. So we're going to see how to do that. So we're going to start with a flash file 2.0. Okay. First layer, just make sure you have the first frame highlighted. If you want a keyframe right now, but I have a feeling it's already created. So now I'm going to take the type tool, or actually the text tool, and we'll just click somewhere on the stage. And right now my text box is at 66. You can change that right now. I'm going to bring it all the way up to the 96. That's the largest that they allow you. Now you could type a number in, but we won't worry about that yet. So I'm just going to type in the word hello. And this is just a tutorial. You can either copy that word or type your name. It doesn't matter. Maybe an exclamation point too. All right, I'm going to move the type or the word in the center here. I'm also going to maybe just make it a little bit larger. Okay. Okay, I'm not sure if we did this yesterday, but I'm going to go ahead now. While it's selected, I'm going to right click and I'm going to break apart. Breaking apart separates the letters. Okay, and you can see each letter after you do that. Then next step, I'm going to right click again, and this time I'm going to distribute to layers, and I don't know if we did this yesterday, so go ahead and select it. Now what the nice thing about that is it already names those layers for you, and you see how the letters are individualized. So that's helpful. Now, layer 1, notice what happened to layer 1. There's nothing on it. It's an empty keyframe. So what we're going to do is just highlight layer 1 and you just trash it. Go ahead and hit that trash can icon. Okay. Okay. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and just take my letters and I'm just going to set them up in an interesting arrangement. Okay. Now you're welcome to put it in any fashion you wish. But remember, this is just practice, so you're going to understand from the practice what we're going to do next. Now, I'm going to turn off the E, the L, the other L, the O, and the exclamation point, because I don't want it to distract me. You certainly don't have to do this, but this is the way I like to work. I'm going to go to the H layer now. Okay? I'm going to add a layer above it. So I'm just going to insert layer. And before I forget, I'm going to call this mask H. Okay? And hit return. Because if we forget to name our layers, then before too long, we're going to have all these layers, and then we're going to forget what they're supposed to be. So we know that this is going to be a mask. I'm going to go highlight the keyframe here. It's an empty one, but it's still a keyframe, so it's going to work for us. And I'm going to take my rectangle tool, and I'm going to make sure the stroke is off. And then I'm going to choose a different color just for purposes of contrast. Okay, so I got the fill dark blue. You don't have to change the color, but I like to do that. Now, understand that the mask eventually disappears. So having that, you know, whatever color doesn't matter. All right, so I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to start the small rectangle here. Make sure the width of that rectangle spans the same or more, actually, than the width of that letter. Right? Very important. Now I'm going to go to the 5th frame in that mask H layer, the 5th frame to highlight it, and I'm going to go F6 to keyframe it. Okay? It has to be F6. Now you should see right away, or you shouldn't see right away, that the H is, or yeah, the letter H is missing. Well, that's because there are no frames. So what we're going to do is highlight the frame right below that mask H 5th frame. So highlight it as I'm doing and do F5. Not a keyframe, just F5 just fills in all those frames. Okay. Now, I noticed that my second, or actually both of them, have a stroke. I didn't want that to happen. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to go to the first keyframe on that mask, and I'm going to double click the stroke first and just hit delete. So you see how I did that? I'm going to double click the stroke. If you single click it, it just selects one side. So make sure you double click and hit delete. So I don't want that stroke on there. I got to do the same thing on the keyframe on 5. Double click it, delete. Now, they're both the same size. I want to increase the size of this rectangle. Now, the other day, I just took the free transform tool and I dragged this down like so. And that's perfectly fine. If you want to keep it like that, that's fine. But here's another way to do it. I'm going to deselect it, and I'm just going to watch what I can do. I can miss or reshape this to have a little curvature at the end. And what that means is when I shape tween it, it's going to tween that regular rectangle into this curvature. So you can decide what you want to do. You don't have to do it right now if it's too difficult. But remember, this is a video, so you're going to be able to replay this. Now I'm going to go back to frame 1. I'm going to right click, and I'm going to create a shape tween. And so look what happens to the square, or to the rectangle. And so it's going to mask in that manner, which is you know, could be a little more interesting than just your standard square getting bigger. It's up to you. Now, the last thing we have to do here is right click the mask layer and choose mask. And now I'm not going to test my movie. No point in doing that. All I'm going to do is scrub, and you can see how it's going to look. No reason, again, to test the movie. Okay, so I'm scrubbing. Looks good. All right. Now, I'm going to go down to the letter E. I'm going to reveal it by showing the eye. And now I'm going to highlight that E, the E layer, and add a new one. Okay. Now I'm going to go ahead and continue the process. Repeat the process. So look where I am. I'm in the keyframe, the empty keyframe of frame 1. But what should I do first? I should name this, shouldn't I? Mask E. It's easy to forget, but I caught myself. So I'm going to go back to frame 1. And I'm going to take a rectangle. Now, the H had a rectangle at the top. I'm going to change it up. And first I'm going to remove that stroke. Don't forget to remove that stroke. And then I'm going to go ahead and drag that out. I'm going to move it a little bit closer. Okay. I'm going to make sure that was done in my mask E layer by turning on and off, and sure enough it was. Now I'm going to go to the 5th frame, highlight it, and now this looks a little strange, and that's because we can't see the E anymore. So just like we did with the H, go to the 5th frame, highlight it, and do F5. There's that E. Now you'll know how wide to make that rectangle. Now go back up to the mask E layer frame 5. And this time I'll just do a simple free transform and just stretch it out, just to make it a little bit different. Okay? But I did something wrong, didn't I? Undo. If you did what I did, undo. I forgot to keyframe it first. Keyframe it. Again, if you did what I did, just do undo. Control Z. And I'm going to highlight frame 5 and do F6. Then stretch it out to hide that E. Okay? Go back to frame 1. Right click and create the shape tween. And then scrub through. Of course, I didn't do what? That's right. I'm going to right click the mask E layer and create that mask. And then, now, here's the next step that we're going to do that's a little bit different. You notice the E, the H, and the E come and reveal themselves at the same time. This is where the stagger comes in. So I'm going to highlight the 5th frame of layer E. Highlight the 5th frame. I'm going to hold down Shift and highlight the 1st frame of mask E to select it all. Now watch what I do. I'm going to drag this down to frame 5. See that? Frame 5. Now, H disappears because, look at this right here. There are no frames here. So all I have to do is what I did last time, highlight, and then hold Shift, highlight again, and do F5, and that fills in the gap. And so this is really all there is to it. The letters reveal themselves at different times. If you look at the mask, you can see how it reveals itself. Okay? If I were to take off these locks, you can actually see the mask being created. So all you have is a shape tween that is used as the mask. You have the word or letter associated with that mask, and then it continues on. Okay? So I'm going to stop here, and then because the rest sort of carries on, and I'd like you to try to finish this word and see how far you can get.